Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. We are starting off a little Christmas in July series for you. I'm going to be sharing some cards and projects and goodies over the next several days. And what better way to start off than with the Spellbinders July Stitch Die of the Month. This is called Sweater Weather Friend. And I gave you a quick look there at everything that was included, but we're going to go ahead and dive right in here. I am stitching the little design that is on the front of this sweater, and it's going to make 6 little trees. So I'm going to show you this first one here, and then I'm going to move really quickly through the other portion of this. This is very easy to stitch. It actually gives you an indented line to follow in between each of these. It's very light, so you don't necessarily have to do the stitching, but if you are, makes it very easy to show you exactly how to connect the dots and create these little trees. I am using 2 strands of floss for this. I didn't want it to be too thick, and I think it gives a nice line to our 6 little trees, and it helps them all stand out but not too puffy of a sweater. I'm sticking here with a solid green color for our Christmas theme. And then, of course, I'm stitching in a darker green, and I'm going to match that darker green thread with the cuffs that are going to go on the sleeves of this. You'll see that here as we put everything together. And I'm just going to secure the end of my thread there. We'll slow things back down a bit and give you the finished look there of all 6 trees. We'll then go ahead and get our scarf stitched. And I wanted to go a little bit off of traditional color. So I'm going to pull in this Dijon mustard color. This is from the Stamp Market cardstock. And I'm stitching that with an off-white or very light beige floss. And I am using the full 6 strands of floss exactly as it comes off of the card, or however you store yours. This is the full pack. And I really wanted a thick, chunky feel to this scarf. And I think by using this very thick strand of floss, it really gives that idea of this nice, cozy, thick sweater that's wrapped right up all around his neck, almost even covering his mouth the way that it's positioned when you put it all together. I'm going to go ahead here and secure my ends with a little bit of mint tape. Now you'll see when we go into the second part of this scarf, I purposely, because I knew I had enough thread on my needle, I will purposely sort of wrap up to enclose my tail for the second piece. You'll see that instead of going top to bottom, bottom to top, I would go top to bottom, back up to top to bottom. And that gave me kind of an angled in the back to hold my floss in place. So if I were doing the bottom portion of the scarf again, I would do that same thing. Takes a little bit more of your thread, but it is nice to sort of have that pocket to loop the end of your thread in and really nicely secure that. And there you're getting a better look at that here as I pull that through and then trim off my end. So let's just take a look here at how this is going to fit together. There we have our sweater and our nice chunky scarf. So now we will go ahead and get our deer placed together. We're going to do this little sort of forehead nose piece on him. And let me tell you the colors I used today. I've got from Spellbinders, I am using Cosmic Sky. That's going to be the background of our card. We'll pull that in a little bit later. For my greens, I've got Rainforest and Fern. Of course, we've got Truffle for the darker brown for his antlers, Fawn for the actual deer. We'll pull in some blush for his ears and his cheeks, and then some Poppy and Merlot for his present. I'm also pulling in a black and ivory from Concord and Ninth as well. And then I had mentioned earlier, I think, that the scarf is this Dijon color from the Stamp Market. So using some art glitter glue to get his little forehead nose piece in place, I did pop up that nose with one of the smaller foam blocks. And now we will get his little ears and cheeks into place. For the back of his eyes to color those in, I'm just going to use a thin strip of some black cardstock. We'll add a little bit of art glitter glue, place that behind, and then just trim it off wherever we need to. Going to add the little maroon bow here onto our red wrapped present. And now we'll start assembling. I'm just going to put a little art glitter glue at the bottom of our deer here, and then we can press our sweater into place. Again, I want our scarf to look nice and chunky, so I'm going to pop that up using some foam dots. And you'll see here, I'm a little worried about that mint tape pulling up because it is very, very chunky thread that's holding in place. So I'm going to add a little art glitter glue behind there, press that down just to make sure it's extra secure. And then we'll add our scarf on top here. And then for our little tail, I'm going to do one foam dot at the bottom. Again, we'll add some art glitter glue. That way we can keep this nice and even. And press that into place. Here we have our little arms for the sweater. At first, when I looked at these, I thought, do these fit on the antlers? Are they like little socks? Are they warmers? And I thought, no, silly. Of course, they are going to make our little arms for our sweater. I just needed to turn them around. I'm going to add my cuffs here. And then, of course, we have his little hoofs because he needs those to hold his present. So just layering these. And then we'll get each of these little hooves attached to the side of the present. Now there is also the option of giving him a little mug to hold as well that you can put some hot chocolate or coffee or whatever you'd like into. I wanted to go with the present, and that of course gave me the option to add in that red for a little bit more of the traditional Christmas colors. Again, just a little dot of art glitter glue, and we will press that into place. Now we've got our antlers. And next we're going to finish up with the strings of lights. These are going to be all tangled in his antlers. It's a really, really cute pattern. I decided here, I kept looking at the deer and the scarf, and I did not like that the scarf was covering the present. So I decided I wanted to tuck that behind my gift here. And I'm much, much happier with the look of that. Just sort of sliding that into place. And then I'm going to add another foam dot behind the present just to make sure that's nice and secure. And also we don't want it sticking up too much. I don't want it to get caught when I'm placing it in the envelope. Now we'll move back over to our lights. These are very easy to put together. Just a little dot of our glitter glue, and you'll just layer the white on top of the little green circles. And there's no real rhyme or reason on attaching these. The longer piece will connect between the two antlers, of course, to kind of give the look of one long strand of lights. And then the other two each have 3 lights, and you can just sort of place those around however you think they look nice. I ended up just doing this one strand in the middle here. Needed a little bit more glue. Need to be a little bit more generous with that. I didn't want it all over my fingers, but it was going to end up there anyways. It always does. So we'll get those into place. And then for these little smaller pieces, I just kind of angled them, one of each of those around each individual antler to give the look of this longer tangled up string. I love that they gave us these in so many pieces because you can definitely use this for other things as well. Like I'm already thinking, how many other things can I wrap up in Christmas lights this season? And there we have our finished little deer. I really wanted those lights to look like they were shining, so we're going to give him an outside setting with a night sky. And to give this some extra dimension, I'm going to hit this with some Lawn Fawn Deep Sea ink just around the edges, just to give a little bit of variety in the color, to give the idea of a night sky. And we are making this into a slimline card. I wanted a lot of blue. I really wanted those lights to stand out and shine. I'm going to hit the bottom with just a little bit of that ink. It really doesn't need too much because our reindeer is going to be down there. Now, I did go ahead and hit that with my heat gun just to help that ink dry a little bit. You could let this sit overnight and it would make your life a little bit easier, but I don't have the patience to wait that long. So I did hit it with my heat gun. I'm adding my powder tool here. It's not completely dry. It's just not the same as if you were to let it dry overnight, like I really should have done. And that's what I would recommend doing. But because I'm impatient, we're moving forward. I'm going to stamp out my sentiment here. This reads "Twinkle all the way," which I thought was perfect for a nighttime sky and to go with those lights. I'm using some Versamark ink here, making sure I've got a nice solid stamp of that. And then we're going to hit that with some Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. Now you'll see, because I'm impatient, I'm going to have to wipe away that excess that's stuck because my ink is still a little wet, but it's not a huge deal. I made sure to not have too much ink in the center where I knew I wanted my sentiment. So it took me a little bit of extra time, but it wasn't too bad. And then, of course, we need some stars twinkling in our sky. So I'm going to take some of my Mr. Huey and I will just sprinkle some little white stars there. I again hit that with my heat tool to help those little splotches dry. In case they're not completely dry though, I am placing this on top of an extra piece of paper so it doesn't get all over my craft mat. I want to pop this up using some foam tape. So I'm going to add some pieces behind here. And I have trimmed this down to slightly smaller than my card base. So it's going to give me about 1/8 of an inch white border all around this nighttime sky. We'll make sure that that's down nice and tight and then peel away the backing. And then we'll place that down on top of our card base. Making sure that's nice and even with our border. Again, we'll take our bone folder and make sure that's all down nice and tight. And now we're ready to finish off with our little deer. So I'm going to use a bunch of foam dots behind here. I'm using a mix of the large and the small. And then I will also pull in some of my thin foam strips for the antlers. Just trimming away a little bit of excess for anything that might be peeking outside the edges there. And then we'll go ahead and peel away the backing. And we'll get this guy pressed into place. I'm going to place him right along the bottom edge of that blue there. I was worried that this scarf piece was just not quite down as tight as I would like it to be. I'm going to add a little more art glitter glue, and then I will take one of my stamp blocks. I'm just going to lay that on top here for a few minutes and just let that dry. For the inside, we're going to finish that off with a sentiment that reads, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I am stamping that with that Lawn Fawn Deep Sea ink to match the blue we placed on the front. We'll add a little ATG to that and get our inside panel pressed into place. And that will complete our card for today. Here are a few close-ups of the finished card. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I've used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.